Hello, my name is Marissa, and I will be speaking on behalf of Group M, and will be presenting the research that Antonia, Victoria, Tristan, Megan, and myself have conducted over the past semester. Because of increasing concerns over the state of the environment, we wanted to research if consumers' level of concern for the environment had any influence on their apparel purchases. We wanted to test whether an individual's level of environmental concern will shape their shopping patterns, specifically in choosing fast fashion brands over sustainable brands. Fast fashion brands are defined as brands that provide low-cost clothing collections that mimic current luxury fashion trends. And because of this low cost and its accessibility, fast fashion is growing and gaining popularity and also having a negative impact on the environment. Going forward with our research, the overarching question we had was, do environmentally conscious consumers avoid fast fashion brands? And does their environmentalism influence or affect the types of fashion brands they buy? Our hypothesis was that we believe a higher level of environmental concern correlates with a lower engagement in fast fashion brands. Using Qualtrics, we designed a survey to send out to SDSU students to conduct our research. This survey focused on finding out our consumers' shopping location preferences, apparel purchasing behavior, environmental beliefs, and last, fast fashion awareness and knowledge. Within the survey, we presented participants with 16 brands that included both fast fashion and sustainable brands to measure the amount of consumer engagement with each type of brand that they currently own or have bought in the last 3 months. The fast fashion brands that we included in our research survey were Zara, H&M, Urban Outfitters, Forever 21, Topshop, Wet Seal, Gap, and Charlotte Russe. The sustainable brands are Reformation, Patagonia, H&M Conscious, Tom's, Everlane, Mango Committed, North Face, and Stella McCartney. At the end of the survey, we included a mini quiz to test our respondents' objective knowledge of fast fashion. We included a short list of mixed brands and asked them to identify what brands they thought were fast fashion brands. Because we began our survey with screening questions, it ensured that our sample was 100% female SDSU students from ages 17 to 25. They have an assumed basic knowledge of different fashion brands, and through separating them through statistical analysis, we separated our group into non-green consumers and green consumers based on the level of concern that they identified with in the survey. The key study variables consisted of our fast fashion and sustainable brand engagement, which was identified by consumers selecting brands from a list if they had purchased from them in the last 3 months, the level of environmental concern, which was measured on a sliding scale from 0 to 100%, the awareness and knowledge of fast fashion. Awareness was measured on a modified Likert scale, and knowledge was based on results of the in-survey quiz. And finally, one of the key study variables we were paying close attention to through our research was the income spent on fast fashion and sustainable brands. After our data collection period, we initially had 175 responses, but after scrubbing and cleaning our data set, we did have to cut the sample size down to 92 due to some incomplete and inaccurate records. Because of our research design and screening questions, we were able to ensure that our entire sample consisted of SDSU female students aged 17 to 25. Something important to note about our sample is that they have relatively high levels of concern for the current state of our environment and reported a relatively high average of 76%. We analyzed our data by running multiple tests in SPSS. Some of these tests included multiple regression model, a chi-score test, an independent samples t-test, and many others to find key results to answer our research question. We ran all of these tests at 95% confidence. In this particular data visualization, we averaged the income spent at fast fashion brands and sustainable brands, and compared these averages between our two subgroups of green consumers and non-green consumers. This visualization gives us great insight into answering our research question and shows that clearly there is no relationship between level of concern for the environment and sustainable purchasing habits. In fact, females who were identified as green consumers actually spent the most on fast fashion than on sustainable brands. Using an independent sample t-test, we tested the awareness level from familiar and not familiar at all, and compared this with the total income spent on fast fashion brands compared to sustainable brands to see if there was any statistically significant difference in averages. The motivation for this test was to determine whether those who spent more on sustainable brands were more aware of fast fashion, therefore less inclined to buy from fast fashion brands. We concluded that with a z-value of 1.27 and a 95% confidence interval, that there was no statistically significant relationship between fast fashion awareness and purchasing of fast fashion brands. This is clear in the data visualization, as you can see that those who were familiar with the concept of fast fashion and the impact of fast fashion still spent a considerable amount on fast fashion brands in comparison to sustainable brands. Using a bin scatter plot, we wanted to understand the distribution of our sample when considering both their level of concern for the environment and the frequency of their sustainable shopping habits, such as thrift store shopping or secondhand store shopping. The motivation was to see whether the level of concern for the environment was a factor at all in driving consumers towards more sustainable shopping practices. As you can see, this data does not prove a necessarily strong relationship between the level of environmental concern and the frequency of implementing sustainable shopping practices. There's no clear linear relationship here. This suggests that mere concern for the environment is not the main driver to shopping more sustainably, and that there may be other reasons beyond environmental concern that motivate people to practice sustainable shopping habits. After conducting our research, we have found that there's little correlation between environmental concern and consumer shopping habits. Though many expressed moderate to high levels of concern for the environment, they still shopped at brands that were not environmentally friendly. However, our research did reveal some opportunity for consumer education, as many still were not able to identify the true definition or true fast fashion brands. Interestingly enough, our hypothesis was actually wrong. In fact, females who are considered green consumers actually spend more at fast fashion brands than females who are non-green consumers. We did want to recognize some limitations that we came across through our research. To begin, there may be a few discrepancies due to the fact that some females may be using their parents' income for clothes as opposed to other students using their own disposable income. This is considered a weakness because students who use their parents' money to shop may be more inclined to buy more and spend more on purchases and maybe more on sustainable brands. In contrast, those who use their own income are more economically conscious of their spendings. Secondly, although our time frame is only 3 months, having our participants recall how many times they have purchased from these brands and how much of their own money they have spent on purchases is still a weakness. Participants are likely to bias their recall abilities, which will skew our data. Another weakness we have encountered involves how our respondents classify themselves as being green consumers. We ask the participants to classify themselves as a green consumer, and since they are reporting their own environmental behavior, they may not be totally accurate. They could be overestimating the truth. Lastly, our data collection may also have some weaknesses. This is because we are measuring on average how much green and non-green consumers spend on fast fashion brands versus sustainable brands. Since sustainable brands are more expensive than fast fashion brands, the data will show more consumers will spend their money there, when in reality, just because consumers are spending more money in dollar amount on sustainable brands does not necessarily correlate to more consumers shopping there or shopping there more frequently. While our research did not prove our hypothesis, it still proved very valuable. After completing this research, we suggest that further research should expand on other factors that might affect consumers' sustainable shopping practices, such as affordability, accessibility, product labeling, product offerings, and social media influencers. As the current state of the environment continues to decrease, we hope that the market research community will expand on our findings to continue discovering what exactly drives consumers to practice sustainable shopping practices, avoid fast fashion brands, and reduce their overall impact on the environment. The findings will be helpful not just for those operating in the fashion industry, but for all industries hoping to capture green consumers in their target market. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.